and the chat room. And a place to get your merch. Why don't you come in the chat room right now? Come on, get in the chat room. I have to get there too, actually. This is show number 520?
Yes.
40. 20.
20.
Hey, whoa, 20 and 500. That's, dang, half a thousand. You can catch us on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Gray's Tabletop Digital Radio.
Radio.
It's coming for you. If you missed Trelaris' show, that's okay. Don't worry about it. She was talking to Dave Scorpio, and they were discussing world affairs. And I said, don't worry about it, because you can go to the archives. Which cost nothing. They're for free, gratis.
Where are they?
No down payments. They're on the homepage, Revolution Radio homepage. Just go there, homepage, up the top. There's a whole bunch of thingies at the top, like little radio buttons. You just press the one called Archives. You got it. Your smart cookies up there.
I don't have any gratis.
And that's it. You don't have any gratis. Well, I'll give you all the gratis you can eat. Come on over.
I'll give you 10 times more than you've got now.
Oh, actually, my daughter, she's 8. She came up with a great idea. She said, Papa, why do we sell our money? I said, what do you mean? Well, we got $1, yes? Why do we sell it for $5? I said, that is brilliant. We should do that. You know what? I would never run out of money, ever.
That's inflation.
Huh? I sell my dollar. Come on, it's a Mackie dollar. Mackie had it, right?
It's worth something more. It's more.
It's more. Anyway, anywho, before we start broadcasting you in anger, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. For me here, it's the Darug people, and for Dave.
Yeah, for me in beautiful downtown Narara, where it's always mushy underfoot, I'm broadcasting out of Dark and Young Country.
Downtown Narara. And pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future.
Correct.
There's no uptown, side town, or undertown Narara. It's only the wrong side of the tracks, and all of Narara is on the wrong side. Hey. He's there.
Well, at least our side of the tracks isn't just constant sirens and gunshots, right? So we're okay.
That's true. You're okay, that's true. Actually, Narara is a beautiful spot. And Dave happens to be on a really, really, really nice property there.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's a fact.
It's all right. But I know some folk that live over on the wrong side of the tracks that we jokingly call it that. We're two different electoral zones, and the other side of the tracks is called Wyoming. Not the American Wyoming, of course, because it doesn't have Devil's Tower, but yeah, it's considered a different socioeconomic area according to the government.
Unbelievable. Really? Just across the road?
It's just across the railway line.
But you know what? I think I told you the story when I was in San Francisco for a conference with a colleague of mine.
I'm not being elitist here. I'm just...
No.
I don't want to just sound the wrong thing, right? There's a trailer park, and there's there's a lot of social housing that was there initially, which is now owned by people because you can buy it out after a certain amount of time. So it's not my criticism of the area. All of the areas around here were, and it used to be an old retirement village, the whole of the Central Coast.
But it is sometimes it's stark. You can actually cross the road and be in a completely different town. Like I said, I was just walking across. This was late at night, coming back from a conference, San Francisco, and we just walked through the most god awful, homeless people kind of thing. You know, like it was terrible. I felt really sad for the people. Tents actually pitched on the sidewalk. You know, people smoking drugs, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally, when we crossed the road, it was a fairly wide road, I guess, but we crossed the road, and what? Like all of a sudden it was normal town again, you know, like normal shops and lights and, you know, like regular folk, not homeless people, I guess.
In the olden days, making Hong Kong, you went 4 streets sideways from the main drag, and it deteriorated pretty quickly. Same with India. You go too many streets aside, and now you're in a shanty town.
Well, you don't have to go too far, my friend.
All right, you step on a beggar, and suddenly, I'm in a shanty town.
You step out of your 5-star hotel, you're there.
You're already there.
It's actually
what the comedian says. You get off the plane, you take one deep breath in, and then you leave.
You leave. That's right. You take the next train out of there. No, but yeah. In fact, I was ill over the past few days, and not sure what. Not sure if it was COVID or something. My daughter did test positive, my youngest, to it, so she's been in isolation. But I tested negative. It's only a rat test, though, so I don't know. Point is, I was ill and I was having flashbacks to India.
Wow.
I took quite a few trips to India, right?
When did you do a tour?
The tour.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, I did the tour of duty. My friend, I was drafted. My boss. Actually, this is actually funny. I'll tell you what happened, right? So
I didn't think we'd ever go down this path.
Oh, it's late now. We're walking down this road.
Yeah.
I got my boots on, and there's no stopping me. So I'd been to India a few times, but this one time, my new boss was meant to come with me, right, for team meeting with the global team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, believe it or not, we had our team meeting in India, and it was actually really nice. It's like Delhi, office space and all that. He asked me, Mickey, are you all booked? Yeah, I'm all good. Okay, what about you? Yeah, packing my passport, this and that, and blah, blah, and he dragged it out, and I actually went down to the passport thing for him, dropped his passport off, and he kept dragging his feet. In fact, so much so that he didn't go, because he didn't want to go, right? He just didn't get his passport. He didn't get his passport then, so I went by myself, which was okay, I didn't mind, right? But, so people do avoid it, and I had this flashback, because it's only one time I got sick. I had many times I went only one time, but it's my fault, because I had a drink with ice. I knew I shouldn't have had the drink with ice.
Well, but the ice is made with the local water, right?
Oh, dude.
And whatever that definition of loosely called water, right?
Well, it's liquid.
It's a liquid.
It's liquid. And no, but I smelled the drink coming. There was a masala lemonade. Masala lemonade is essentially lemonade with curry spices in it, right?
What's the brown solid fluty things?
Yeah. That was the ice. And I smelled it. It smelled like sewer.
If it's brown, drink it down. If it's black, take it back.
It wasn't black. But it was my team was there and looking at me. It's masala lemonade. You got to try it. I didn't want to be that guy, right?
I know, guy. Right?
You know what I mean?
You're thinking, is it alcohol in there?
No.
So that would have killed at least some of the things that were bad.
Would have been much better with alcohol. But the funny thing is, this was at a Pizza Hut. The team wanted to go to Pizza Hut, right? So anyway, suffice it to say, for the next
you're at a Pizza Hut in India.
Oh, in India, my friend. That's where I was. I was for the next 3 days, feet up in the air. Well, not so much. I was like a cat, sort of like
Turbolax.
And you had one colleague with me,
luckily, hovering over the toilet from thrust.
Oh, dude, I was fearing for distance and accuracy at that point. But it was bad. I felt like dying. I really feel like like dying. My buddy brought me Imodium. Thanks, Tejas, by the way, if you're listening. Thanks so much. He's a great travel companion. But I was ill, man. I was ill. And I don't do sick well. I'm a really bad sick person. I don't get sick often. And when I get sick, I don't really get very sick. But if I do get sick, very, very sick, don't be my nurse. Don't be anywhere near me. Leave me.
Do you know what I'm picturing, though? You turning kind of into George Costanza when you're sick.
Yeah, in many ways.
Is that close? Is it close?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because like I said, I don't do sick well. Especially but when I get sick, I get really sick, right? And yeah, George Costanza, I reckon. Don't come anywhere near me. Just give my house a wide berth. In fact, don't come to my suburb.
Don't come to the suburb.
Don't come to the suburb. But so how did we
I'll
get
put an APB out to leave you alone. That's what I'll do.
So how did we get down the track of me being sick?
I don't even know anymore.
However,
I'm lost. I didn't leave a trail of breadcrumbs.
There's some. No, I didn't either. Right? I can't follow them. Yeah, it's dark. Breadcrumbs at night.
And there's a creature behind me eating them. I shouldn't have used bread. The ducks are following me.
Look, before we kill the hour with our banter, this has been a week of insanity. It really has.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, last week, I said, war, nuclear
much
war.
Better.
I don't think so. Much better. That was so far-fetched, a concept. But now, we have had fighting around Russian nuclear. This is not a nuclear power station that's switched off like Chernobyl.
It's the largest one in the whole of Europe.
The largest, and the people working it, they haven't had a break for days now. That's a good idea. Have nuclear technicians that are exhausted and under stress working the world's Europe's largest nuclear facility.
Safe enough.
That's a recipe for success right there.
Right there. You know what? Apple could be. Maybe they gave them guidance. Oh, too soon.
Suicide nets.
That's what I need. Yeah.
Problem solved, sir.
Done.
Oh, the HR reward for you.
You get a bonus. And
do you think we're joking, guys?
No, that's right. With the high rates of suicide in a Apple manufacturing plant, or there was rather than deal with the worker stress which was leading to it, they just put nets to catch the people.
Am I still there? Hello,
you're there.
Oh, there.
Am I here?
Good. So, yeah, no, for a second there. Maybe this is the fucking war. That's what we're experiencing.
Haven't we all learnt that topic, which I've been using for 30 years recently? Do you know what it's like, Meki? When you watch the Olympic Games and you don't really take care of, you don't monitor the sports throughout all the years in between, and then suddenly in the first minute that it's on, you're already an expert.
That's right.
Of any sport, doesn't matter what it is, even if it's curling.
I know.
Yeah. No, that's not going to do it. No, they should have been sweeping so much now.
Too much sweeping. Less rubbing, more sweeping.
So, downhill, the fast downhill through, from the top of the mountain all the way down. Oh, they've messed that gate, right? Did they? Do they really? You try doing it, right? I bet you've never even seen snow in real life, but yeah, you're commentating like you wrote the rules,
Dude, I invented sports. That's
all of them.
All of them.
That's it. Yeah, you don't know how old I am. I'm never going to tell you, but you have to work it out. Yes, so all of the events that are currently unfolding, like all of the prior wars where there was an undercurrent of there always being a build-up. And the question was it ever going to eventuate? To the masses, they all came as a complete surprise.
Yeah.
And right now, there are so many points to bring up about how crazy this is all seeming on the top layer. But understanding what is really going on beneath is still a mystery. But we can speculate and make certainly a lot of speculation as towards which way this is going, how it's developed, who's the winners and who are the losers, and just in a nutshell, right? But to start off this, Meki, I think the first point, I did send you some text through.
No, I got it.
Yeah, the first point here is and it's a question, what quantity of truth?
12.
Yeah, 42.
Pepsi?
Or the number, partial credit. The number of the counting should be 3. Right? What quantity of truth creates the correct amount of fear within a stable government that conflicts with their messaging, which then forces them to ban social media?
In the case of the Soviet, sorry, I was going to say Soviet Union. In the case of Russia, the Federation, the Russian Federation,
that's
that
right.
would be about the size of a grain of a mustard seed.
Yes.
Oddly enough, that's also the amount of faith you're required to get into heaven. So those two quantities, I think it's like a unit of measurement in faith and truth.
I'm sure there's a word that describes that very action. Because that was very. Oh, I forget the author now. With sunglasses that go black.
Oh yes. Now I can't think of it. Here we go. Douglas Adams.
Douglas Adams. See, you did it. You finally you did succeed. So in Douglas Adams' sense of describing it, Mick, you did it perfectly. Absolutely, whatever it took. Even mustard seed. That's pretty small, right?
I know.
Yeah, because they've banned Facebook and Twitter now because people were getting feeds from the West which conflicted with Putin's narrative.
But it gets better than that.
Yeah, it does. But we've just seen all of that with the virus. Yeah? So the West's media is saying how terrible Putin was to cancel Facebook and Twitter because the messaging didn't suit him. Well, that's funny. We've just spent how many years? Fighting the global narrative of COVID-19. And where people are getting deplatformed, And that was bad, right? Oh no, that was good because we're doing it, but now someone else is doing it, and that's bad.
Yeah, but he flipped it, right? He goes, well, no. So Facebook was deplatforming, yeah, right, and Twitter was deplatforming, and now Russia says, but he's unplatforming. he's not deplatforming. He's going, you no longer have a platform in Russia. Bye bye.
Yeah, screw you.
See you. I do not need you. I have vodka. Thank you.
Vodka? Vodka.
But actually, it's even more interesting than that. So, all independent Russian news stations.
Yes.
I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking, news stations.
Are
now closed. They've all been shut down.
Yeah, that's true.
Only the state-owned ones. In fact, the last one that was shut down, they all walked off while the camera was on, and they were playing Swan Song.
Really?
The by Tchaikovsky, because that's what in the USSR, whenever there's like political unrest, that's what the TV station would play, Swan Song or Swans. It's funny. Now, not only that, the Russian state media is now also no longer allowed to call it a war. It is a military, special
operation.
Yeah, not invasion, not war, none of that. Not only that, it gets better than that. It really does. It really does.
Do tell.
No, look, and I will. And the funny thing is this: the narrative that's coming out is interesting because I don't know how true it is. I think there's some truth into it. The Russians are saying they're denazifying the Ukraine.
That's correct. That's what they're saying. Definitely what they're saying.
Now, the truth is that there is a brigade within the Ukraine armed forces that has a very interesting emblem. I think it's called the Azov Brigade. Don't hold me to it. I think it's Azov, but I could be wrong. And they have a stylized black sun and a stylized swastika as their emblem. Mm-hmm. So is this a neo-Nazi or Nazi? Is this a brigade? That
I see. Because the black sun's in the middle of the symbol.
In the back, yes.
Yeah.
Now the thing is this. This is the interesting thing. Look, when the Germans in World War II, they invaded all these countries. There weren't enough Germans to kill all the Jews and kill all the other people they didn't like. So they had to recruit people from that country. So in many countries, we're quite happy to work with the Nazis, right? The Vichy regime in France, others, etc. Similarly, in the Ukraine and other Eastern Bloc nations, there were people that collaborated with the Germans because that's what you do. And there was always an undercurrent of anti-Semitism anyway in the East, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Germans didn't invent it. In fact, in the 1880s, there was a pogrom. A pogrom is, I guess, persecution of the Jews, specifically in the 1880s in Russia, which killed 100,000 Jews. No one talks about that anymore, but that happened, and Ukraine was part of that. So, is that true? Is Russia going in there to get rid of the Nazis? Well, okay, let's say just for a second, let's say that's the case. Just for 1 second. Mm-hmm. It took them from the fall of the Soviet Union, so it took them 32 years to figure out that they need to get rid of the Nazis. In case of Putin has been in power 20 years, let's call it 20 years, give or take, right? And it took him 20 years to figure out, Ukraine is full of Nazis, we better do something about it. And he makes a beeline, didn't I tell you? He makes a beeline for the port in the Black Sea.
That's right.
Because that's what he wants, guys. I told you this weeks ago. He needs a port that isn't frozen over half of the year. That's what he wants.
Yeah, completely.
You. Game over.
Yeah, so I watched a group of panelists on CNN discussing this. This is before CNN closed its own outlet, news station within Russia, because they had one. Right? And the panelists were discussing this like it was a financial discussion about stocks going up and down. They all had an opinion, but they all supported the same narrative, that this is indeed what is happening. So, and they were, only sprouting, from what I could tell, no information whatsoever, but rather opinions based on a single narrative that was an orchestrated narrative. And that's fine. I don't care what CNN do, because it's, we've seen how they've behaved within the US, and it didn't seem to be any different. The government narrative's the narrative you speak about, right? You can't counter it. Mm. Now, as in conflict to that, there is a lot going on, but it's really good to bring it up, Mickey, because that's, what we are is about bringing all the information, and you get to choose, right? And I think that is more important than sprouting back to you your own ideas and your own, closely held ideas of what you think is going on, right? Because if we can bring you something that gives, maybe adds to it, fantastic. But one of the things, Mehi, I thought has been extraordinary is I've got all the cameras up, and I'm just going to quickly show.
Okay.
I've got something like 20 cameras that I witness, and I watch the Kharkiv, the tanks, the Russian military vehicles with the black ones with the Zs painted all over them, cruise in and take control, and the other cars avoided them, like the regular downtown traffic avoided anything to do with them, right? Which I thought was really interesting.
Well, dude,
wouldn't you?
Tank coming at you. What are you gonna do? It's like, I'll play chicken with that tank, right?
Yeah, it went well for all the other people that have done it, right? Surely, didn't it? Yeah, I saw some CG of the Tiananmen Square thing, and that went well for the guy returning home with his shopping, right?
Actually, do you remember the picture of the Tiananmen Square since you brought it up?
Yeah.
There was one guy in front of one tank.
Yes.
If you pan out and you look at the whole picture, because it's actually only a small section of the whole.
That's
the whole picture shows like 30 tanks in a
Yes.
column coming toward that guy.
That's right.
That's some chutzpah, that guys. You know what I mean?
That's one way of putting it.
Eh?
I think that was a change of pants. Walk home, that one. And
Dude.
what really came out about that was human to human, staring at someone in the eyes, who isn't a threat, and the tank driver was honestly trying to get around him.
Yeah.
When you watch it for what it really is, and yes, you're right,
no.
and there were many people slain that day. So.
Did you see Did you see the news snippet of the Russian tank that broke down in the Ukraine, and then a truck driver goes past it? Do you see that?
No, I haven't seen that one.
So there was it's a Ukrainian truck. You're gonna love social media, and everybody's got a camera now, right? It's just fantastic. So he drives past it. The tank is broken down. They're Russians, right? And he goes to the Russians. Hey guys, can I help you? Can I tow you back to Russia?
Oh yes, that's right. That's right. Yes.
And they go, no, it's okay, go. So something else. They could have killed the guy, right? They didn't. This is a terrible situation. I get it, but there are moments of I don't know, humanity.
That humanity and the lightheartedness in which the guy offered to take them home. That's the kind of that's the automotive mantra right there. A fellow motorist broken down on the road. And do you want to hop in? Because I can take you wherever you want, right? It's all good.
Russia? Hop it back to Russia.
Yeah.
Russia,
But I'm already in Ukraine. No, I'll take you back to Russia. I'm going that way.
Yeah, they're not going to help you over there. This is a different auto club.
Are you a member of the auto club?
Duh. No. No, I'm sorry.
So I was having a Groundhog Day flashback then. Remember the old ladies in the car and it just starts jacking up? Okay, so what I noticed... please don't. Yeah, thanks somebody. I think somebody might be nobody. It's a new nobody called somebody.
Anybody could be somebody, but somebody is nobody only if anybody is everybody. And then only and then only if anything is possible and something is not.
Has your Astragalus come through, has it?
I've been taking it.
Yeah, good. I thought it might. All right. just because wow, that was a merry-go-round of bodies then. Okay, so the Ukraine has now put out a call to the globe to seek volunteer, and I remind everyone, as they did, that it is looking for volunteers to fight against Russia, but within Ukraine. How you get there, I don't know, since the whole thing's cut off. Pretty much, as soon as Kiev is cut off by those 40 miles of vehicles, then it's going to be almost impossible to get within there. But maybe you can be inside one of those vehicles traveling with all of the weapons that the rest of the world is providing. You could pretend to be a courier. And now I've got a True Lies thing when they pretend to be the cameraman with a gun inside it. But anyway, that is extraordinary because certainly within Australia, that call should not be answered because our government has said you won't be able to retain your passport to come back. your citizenship will just be blocked. You'll be without a country. So you're not allowed to go and fight a war on behalf of anyone else except for this country, right? You're allowed to go and die for that, but you're not allowed to die for some other country. So it's a pro bono war invitation. So for mercenaries that are willing to do it for free. That's good. If there are people that are willing to do that, I hope you're not killed. It wouldn't be an easy fight, and the conditions, since it's winter, is going to be pretty tough to be on it. However, my belief is if your country is against the foe in any way, shape, or form, then it should be allowed and respected. However, you can't fight for the enemy. I think that's what you shouldn't be doing. So remember the people going over as freedom fighters going to fight against anybody in any conflict anywhere, and that's totally illegal in Australia. You lose your citizenship. So they made a rule to stop people fighting for ISIS, but then it kind of blanket covers everybody doing anything, and I reckon that's pretty hard. So the world is responding in Ukraine's favor, but so openly as to group us all together into an even larger target, which I dare say, if we cross any of their lines that have been set by Putin, the game on and that mutually assured destruction, which we'll get to a bit later, I think is a real threat. All right. So CNN are announcing that Biden is siding with Ukraine and that it's causing the fuel prices to rise. This is CNN now going against their own government, but then with the spin that it's the US citizens' patriotic duty to pay the increase as a personal sacrifice. Isn't that an extraordinary statement? Hello, Earth to Meki? Meki? This is Major Tom, the ground control. So I thought that was an extraordinary statement for CNN to make openly on air and not have it removed. Just wow, really? So I think what that statement is attempting to do is rather than putting blame on Biden for the gasoline price increases, stating that it's just your duty to pay more because now we're at conflict, against Russia, and they're the ones who some of our fuel comes from, and therefore the price is going up. Calling on Biden's prior statements that he's making the cost of living go down. Bah. Cost of living, who cares anymore, right? It's going to go nuts. So from the fuel point of view, I'm making this statement one more time, and that is that E0 fuel, which is like the 95s and 98s or whatever you want to call it, 96s, that don't have any ethanol in them at all, it's really important to note that E85 fuel, which has a net zero for the fuel itself contribution to carbon emissions. It's net zero because it uses the carbon it burns itself. In E85 fuel, compared to straight oil fuel, it's actually nearly half cost. So it's $2.97 for a gallon of E85. So if you've got a nice car that's made for it, there you go. Otherwise, it's $4.22 for the 98 or whatever E0. And it's better for the environment. And I don't know why people aren't doing this. It just does my head in. And therefore, you're not shipping fuel all half a way around the world. What you're really doing is just growing it from even switchgrass. It doesn't have to be corn. Switchgrass is enough, and you just mow it. And there's no net increase in carbon if you're not, tilling the soil and making all that stored carbon go back into the atmosphere. All of the hit pieces on E85 were all written by, it appears, allegedly, by hit pieces by the fuel industry, not wanting to lose revenue to something that actually is a performance boost for your car. Anyway, so having said that, what other threats are there that we're seeing that the world is doing and putting us into jeopardy? And I think one of those is the B-52s, the US B-52s that have flown within 100 kilometers of the Ukraine border. They did a real sharp turn and flew towards the border and then back out again. And that's real trouble. That's playing with fire too close to the petrol, if you don't just throw that in, right? There's a high risk of that going out of shape. Now, I know all it was doing, and I know that Russia would have had 100% visibility of those aircraft, what they were doing, but I know it's to show solidarity. All of this is to show solidarity. But at what point is there a mistake? This risk, I think that my favorite term is the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So right now, having such a tinderbox, why add the threat? Why add the threat? It just makes no sense to me. Anyway, on top of that, we're seeing cyber warfare active on both sides right now. We've never seen so many hacks from Russia, and I just watched a story this week that said Anonymous have claimed to have already hacked Russian military and weapons manufacturers. To what extent? It's not been made public. But clearly, if they'd found a hack that had been taken place, it would have closed those doors. But had they gained anything? Not sure. To whose benefit? Don't know. None of that's open. Because if I were one of the military leaders, I'd have a warehouse full of my 50-cent army, doing what I could. If they've not already done it, if that makes sense. Because right now the intel is going to be worth it, whatever that intel is. But remember, a hack is also a military gesture, so that can also be considered a threat. And it's one of those things that Putin put on his list. If you do any of these items, then you are basically declaring war against me. And so that threat is it's a real threat. One thing that I laughed so hard that I nearly wet myself, and that was the Belarus leader appears to have accidentally given away Putin's plans on live television. But I asked, was it a red herring? Was it intentional? I think the guy didn't know what he was doing, or didn't realize the camera could see it, because there was a map in the back with arrows drawn on it, and it's now we know in arrears after seeing it this was part of the plan.
Yeah.
But was it always the plan? Was it just his scribblings? Does he like crayons? I don't know.
It's like a supervillain giving away the plot to James Bond. It's the same thing.
A big chair, a white cat, a slow turn.
Blofeld, what do you do next? I will invade Ukraine via Belarus, and I will take this path. No one can stop me.
And now that I will oversee your death. And so the death process begins, and he walks away, and then he always escapes.
Yeah. Oh my
he needs more lasers with sharks with lasers. That's what he needs.
Sharks with lasers. That's what I want. Freaking sharks with lasers.
There was.
But this point, I think this is the big one, Nick. It's due for some input, right? I started thinking from a different perspective. I had to ignore all of the media, but using their little blips and blobs and drips of information to put together a list, which then made the picture that China might very well be benefiting from this whole thing, and maybe Russia was simply the pawn. So my question is, has Russia played directly into China's plan to bolster their own strength by using Russia as the first pawn in this military game? I say this because of the new reliance on China that Russia has now signed up to.
Can I give you a different perspective on that?
Yes, please.
So this is interesting because I've been wondering, about this as well. I've been back and forth on this, and this is the situation. So Ukraine is a sovereign nation that needs to be understood, and really, we have to make that point. Ukraine, sovereign nation. The two breakaway republics, or whatever you want to call them, the regions, right?
Yes.
And so ostensibly, Russia went in there for two reasons. One, to help those two breakaway regions, which are largely Russian, or
to become more Russian.
Well, they want to be independent, but clearly pro-Russian, right?
That's right.
And so they're two separatist states as far as Ukraine is concerned, right? And Russia comes in and helps them to break away from the Ukraine, right? Sovereign nation. Now China is looking at this going, no, wrong narrative.
That's right.
No. So because that's why they're now getting their hackles up, and that's why they're no longer in full support of Russia.
I saw the full 180 turn from China on this, yes.
Yeah, because why? Well, but Taiwan is a breakaway republic.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can't be supporting them. Stop it.
No, exactly, because, again, China, sovereign nation.
Oh, hang on, wrong accent. What about, you're killing me here.
You're killing me. I don't want to do it.
Facepalm. Facepalm, you're killing me.
But that's the thing, right? So China is going, no, we don't want breakaway republics. We want breakaway regions. Taiwan is China. All of a sudden, by helping Russia, by helping those two breakaway regions, is legitimizing Taiwan.
Not helping Russia.
Not helping at all. Like, if anything, like, look, attack the Ukraine as much as you want, but don't talk about the breakaway regions. You're breaking my balls over here. What are you doing? Come on.
Stop breaking my balls.
Seriously,
Cartman, that is so funny.
So, but that's the thing, though, right? This is what China's saying. Oh, good lord, no, this is not the narrative I want. Ukraine, do what you want, but don't talk about those regions. But again, Russia needs a reason. Now, denazification is pretty weak after 20 years. But look, coming to the aid of the Slavic people in breakaway republics, even though the Ukrainians are Slavs too.
Yes,
that's good. That goes right back to World War I, right? And Serbia. So you can see the game that's being played here, and clearly, none of the leaders read each other into it fully. Nobody. I love the leader more. Nobody saw the playbook. The Russians didn't see the Chinese playbook, and the Chinese didn't see the Russian playbook.
That's right.
And now they're sort of aligned. They were sort of aligned. Hey, Russia, don't invade Ukraine prior to the conclusion of the Olympic Games, please. Russia goes, hey, you know what, buddy? No worries. We'll just do this. Solidarity to show America we're strong.
Yeah.
And then he goes, I'm gonna help the breakaway republics. No, Putin, do not do that. Taiwan is a breakaway republic. What you doing over here?
Yeah, like if you're playing euchre and your teammate, you go, I should have gone alone, right?
Yeah.
And they're throwing off left and right and center, and you've got all the trumps, and oh goodness me.
But you're 100% on the money when you said, I think China is gauging the reaction
completely.
of the world to Russia.
Yes.
And the reaction the world has offered is what will inform China's future movements. 100%.
Yes, 100%.
100%.
So the points that I've got here that I noted that were these are things that the world has done as sanctions. So the oil pipeline to the EU, that's cut off from the EU side. So EU is no longer buying fuel. The banks cut off. They selectively regulated SWIFT and also CHIPS, as it's known. That's the Chinese version. Yep. Crypto regulated, and you're not allowed to exit your crypto. You're allowed to trade it within, but not allowed to exit to any currency if you're Russian. That's selective. The oligarchs' money frozen in Switzerland. That's selective and kind of a very political stance that Switzerland has never done, right? Yeah. Credit cards, also MasterCard and Visa, have cut off access now from those persons within Russia. The Russian citizens also have payment systems, as in PayPal, Apple Pay, and Google Pay, all cut off. Crazy, right? Then IKEA, Apple, and Samsung. Well, who really cares, right? You can hold off a month or 2 months or 6 months, whatever it takes, before you buy that new, Malm, right, from IKEA. I buy IKEA stuff. I'm a big supporter, but, it's not going to cripple people. But Apple, they'll be held on, back from a phone upgrade, and Samsung, same kind of deal. But Aeroflot also was banned over the Ukraine and the USA. And I've got a screen capture here of Flight Radar 24, where the planes were flying in and then had to do a U-turn and fly back out again. Crazy that they had to do that, right? Yeah, those things hurt the people, right? And now all of these items cut now sourced from China, except for the chips money. That's the problem. That's still an issue. But the oil, well, they're selling oil, they're making money from China from that, and that's a good benefit to China. But is this the new way of the world with China in the middle? That's my question, and it's certainly going to be.
Yeah. Well, we are seeing, like I said, we discussed this many times over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
We're seeing an evolution, an evolutionary change in the
It's a
way
handover.
The international arena works. Well, it is in a way, you know. I mean, it's not so much a handover. It's like the holding of the same cup by very, very many people, and some have a stronger grip than others, and some are trying to get a grip on the cup. And there's going to be a bit of wrangling, and eventually, something will spill. Sorry, poor analogy, but something will spill.
Well, it was
the
a
cup will
cup,
still be
so
there.
spill is a good analogy.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping that, because the thing, when it changed in the past, and we had a few instances, not in our lifetime. Oh, sorry, once in our lifetime, really, which was the fall of the Berlin Wall, and then sort of again, I'm saying sort of because it wasn't really a change; it was just a strengthening of the position. Was after 9/11. So after the Soviet Union fell in the early 90s, and then again, making America the only superpower, and then 2001, America was elevated to superpower, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a lot of global goodwill, which was squandered immediately.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. So we haven't seen this. So we can liken this to the fall of the Soviet Union, this new emergence of the global power structure. Not sure what it's going to look like, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So my question, I knew your answer was going to be such, and I think, remember, I've said this many times, Mackie, over the last year at least, as we've seen this the tensions build, and that is, was all this worth the death of democracy? Because the writers of the new history would write something like they cleansed the world of the chaotic financial system and many voices. They silenced it to a single voice, single currency, single world order, right? That is how the winners would write whatever the outcome is of this. Doesn't matter who the winner is.
Yep.
And because the winners always change the narrative and the way the history is written, and all their faults are deleted and all of their things are built up. Eventually Biden will have walked on water. If Biden won. If Putin wins or China wins, then Xi walks on water, and it's no criticism. It's just the way that the history books end up being written.
Yeah.
So these are crazy thoughts, Mickey. I have crazy, that NATO, who have already recognised Ukraine as an aspiring member. This is my thoughts only.
Yes, and
should
the EU as well.
Oh yes, that's right. And they should include Georgia, and I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong, but Herzegovina, probably that'll do.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
that'll do. And Ukraine should be added to NATO by way of an emergency session of the Council.
And that won't happen because that will be vetoed
by
Russia.
Exactly. All you do is exclude Russia from it and say under the emergency session, just go.
You can't.
Well, I know. But that's the crazy thought that I had, because in emergency situations, emergency actions should be taken rather than just the same old, because you'll never get anything done. You're never going to change anything significantly enough to react to anything if you're just using processes, and the aggressor shouldn't be able to veto your decision.
Well, yes, and that is, see, this is what happened after...
That's saying logically, right?
Yeah,
not in actuality. Right. Yeah.
No, see, after World War II, the Security Council was established, which didn't exist in the League of Nations, after World War I, interestingly enough. And the only people that made it to the permanent members, So they're rotating members, but the permanent members of the Security Council of the UN, they have complete veto power, and that's the US. The former US is also Russia,
Yep.
right? France, Great Britain.
France, rifle chuckers. Yeah, sorry.
one more.
Did I say that out loud?
There was one more, and it escapes me now. But the point is,
Sorry, France.
those are the only permanent members, and only those ones can veto it, right? So unless we see something that happened prior to World War II, where Hitler and then subsequently Mussolini walked out of the League of Nations, if Putin goes, you know what, I'm walking out of here. This is not my club anymore, not my cup of tea. All of a sudden, the UN can then, because Russia has withdrawn its membership. Of course, that won't happen, because unlike the League of Nations,
Well, the moment he does that, he knows that they're
it's
going to include him and it's game on.
no, but yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, if he were to leave, it'll be all over, and the old structure is then done. The UN has collapsed as a thing.
Yeah.
And we're in a whole different kind of.
That's a lot of hurt. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So my very next point here is joining them, meaning those three countries, Georgia, Herzegovina, and Ukraine, would start World War III probably within minutes, because Putin's hard set of rules he announced before invading Ukraine, it did declare this to the world, that if anyone was to disobey his set of rules, then it's game on.
The thing is this. I don't know if you've not followed this. So Russia has now been trying for 7-8 days to take a couple of cities, and I think they've taken one city in the Ukraine. Now, the Ukraine is not,
definitely, and down in the south they've taken two.
correct, and the port. But the thing is, Ukraine is not a military power by any means. I mean, they were making but there was a brewery. I saw this report. The brewery had switched from making beer to making Molotov cocktails.
Yeah, that's right.
So these are people that are now ready for guerrilla warfare, because the armed forces are not as strong as you might think, whereas the Russian military is purported to be very strong. Now, think about this for a second. So the Russian economy is tiny. It's number 44 or 43 out of 45 in Europe, right? Which means
equal to about Spain's.
Yeah, which is
income.
tiny.
Yeah.
It's really I mean, it's astounding just how small the economy is. Now, yes, they have nuclear weapons. Okay, that's true. But you use nuclear weapons, that's it. You're done. And the thing is, this also, Russia cannot take on anyone else, any power other than a Ukraine or a Georgia, for example, because they haven't got the money or the material. They've got the people. Don't get me wrong, they've got a lot of people, right? But, I mean, China is in the east just waiting for Russia. I mean, China would love nothing more than to take Siberia. Siberia is so full of
resources,
untapped natural resources. China wouldn't have to go anywhere for 500 years. That's it. Thank you very much. I have Siberia.
They could close
India,
their border and just leave it the way that leave it like that.
Yeah, India would come up from the south, by the Himalayas, and then go through a few countries. So what? Europe might see, and in fact, America might come over the pole. Who knows? But the point is, Russia can't afford a war with the world. And not only can't it afford it, it's completely unwinnable, right? Even if they use nuclear weapons, for argument's sake, right? For the northern hemisphere, it's lights out. That's simple.
Yeah, that's right. So this all led me to my ultimate question, Mickey. The ultimate question, not the question of life, the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. 42. Is that right?
Pepsi.
Partial credit. And it is Putin ultimately responsible, as the question is due to the question, a further question, is Russia an autocracy? Is it truly an autocracy? Because if it is, we can't blame the people. We can only blame Putin then. And at the moment, we're putting crushing sanctions on the people who, if they don't like those sanctions, are supposed to complain to Putin to say, stop it. It's unlikely that he would listen anyway. But whether it's an autocracy or not depends on who we should blame and who we should be truly putting the pressure on. Because if it's a democracy, we can't. We could blame the people as well and then punish them. And this is this really weird place we're in at the moment. From a country's standpoint, we can only stop the country from doing things. therefore all the people involved inside that.
Hmm.
Your thoughts, my friend?
Well, look, it's fairly clear cut. I mean, Putin has done whatever he can to stay in power, right? He changed positions. He's sure manipulated, the vote. He
was the start of the time, Mackie. Everyone's doing that these days.
that is true. I'm not saying what he did was,
He's not alone.
He's definitely not. And he's also put people, opponents in jail. He's had some executed, had some prosecuted, a whole bunch of stuff. So
used to wear an onion on my belt.
Yeah, that's what happened. So he's consolidated his grip on power. He's done so very effectively. Head off to him. And by the same token, he can't do it himself. You can't do it yourself. So you've got a whole bunch of people that work with you, and that is the oligarchy, right? That he has working. So yes, it is an autocratic regime, but it is an underlying oligarchy that supports his autocracy, right? So these families, these powerful families in Russia, working with Putin and his family, obviously, to form an autocratic government, or to keep it in power, I should say.
Yes.
Right? It's not fascism. And it's not socialism or communism. It truly is
an
autocracy, which is ruled by an underlying oligarchy, that's what it is. Well, it is. It's going back. I mean, oligarchs and autocrats were around, 2,500 years ago. That's how things were done then, right? It's not even a feudal system, right? It's not even that.
It's not even feudal, yeah.
And fair enough. I mean, it is what it is. It's very different to the Western fascism, which has now taken hold in America and in many other Western democracies, right, where government is really run by big business.
It's only lacking. It's an appointed official, only lacking a queen or king.
Yeah, well, he's the Tsar of Russia.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Putin, and so no, the people look. Okay, you have to understand the people are being fed the state media. And
a single message only. That's right.
Right. So. It's really hard to figure out what's what, right? I mean, look, we all have struggled with the truth ourselves. I mean, what is true? Is CNN true? Is BBC true? Is RT is true? Is the Chinese Daily true? Is the Deutsche Welle true?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. How about maybe Rai is true? Yeah? Maybe
Why on?
Espanol. Well, but the thing is, unless you are there, right? You have to rely on other people telling you what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Russians, look. They had enough troubles.
When you have one narrative, there is only one message to believe, Mackie.
Yeah, but there are anti-war protests in Russia.
Yeah, they're small, and you just wait to see what happens to those people in the future.
Yeah, I know, but the point is, the people are not just sitting down. They're not just taking it sitting down, and ultimately,
there's certainly old folk, Mackie, just like my parents, my dad, who would be sprouting the same thing. I saw a pop fox on the street with 30 seconds to go, where an old lady was being interviewed, and she said, "Yeah, this is just a military operation. What's the point?"
Oh, completely. Oh, wow, that went quick.
It sure did. Hey, guess what? Yes, never a more important word said. This is David Mackey, Shiny Side Out. We'll catch you on the other side of the top of the break for Ancient Aliens. We'll see you then.